Conservative cultural policy in the UK has seen a number of changes since Prime Minister Boris Johnson took office in 2019. And these changes have impacted various areas of British culture, including art, theatre, music, and media, up to this day. One of the central measures of conservative cultural policy is the reduction of public funding for culture. In recent years, the UK government has reduced annual spending on culture from 1.2 billion to 1 billion pounds. And these cuts have led to a number of problems. Many cultural institutions, including theatres, museums and libraries, have had to reduce their spending. And this has led to a reduction in the range and quality of cultural offerings. And in some cases, cultural institutions had even had to close. Cuts in public funding for culture have also had an impact on the diversity of British culture. Cultural institutions are increasingly dependent on private donations, which often come from companies or foundations that pursue their own interests. And this has led to a concentration of cultural funding on certain areas, while other areas are neglected. And another important measure of conservative cultural policy is the greater emphasis on British nationalism. The government has launched a number of initiatives to promote and strengthen British culture. And these include, for example, the introduction of a new National Heritage Day and the promotion of British artists and musicians abroad. However, the emphasis on British nationalism has also led to criticism. Critics argue that this policy leads to the exclusion of minorities and the promotion of a homogeneous culture. And overall, conservative cultural policy in Great Britain has led to a series of changes that have had a lasting impact on the British cultural landscape. And cuts in public funding for culture and greater emphasis on British nationalism have led to a reduction in the diversity and the quality of British culture. And there are also some real examples for this. In 2022, public funding for Arts Council England, that's the UK's main arts funding body, was cut by 30%. And this has led to cuts in subsidies for numerous cultural institutions, including theatres, museums and libraries. And in 2023, the BBC, the UK public broadcaster, was forced to cut its spending by 20%, and this has led to cuts in new broadcasts, cultural coverage, and original production. In 2023, arts funding organisation Arts Council England was ordered to change its funding criteria as well. The new criteria play a greater focus on supporting British arts and culture, and this has led to a reduction in funding for international arts and culture. And conservative cultural policy is controversial in Great Britain. Critics argue that it is leading to the erosion of the British cultural landscape. However, the government defends its policy, arguing that it serves to promote British culture and strengthen British nationalism. But also public services such as swimming pools suffer from conservative cultural policies in the UK. And you might think why, but there is a reason behind this. Because the British government has made major cuts in public spending on culture and leisure facilities in recent years. And this has also led to cuts in public funding for swimming pools, for example. Swimming pools are increasingly dependent on private donations and sponsorship, seriously. And this can mean that the offers and prices are based on the interests of companies and the foundations that sponsor those institutions. And cuts in public funding have resulted in funding for swimming pools being focused on specific regions and population groups. And this can put swimming pools in rural areas and swimming pools used by minorities at a disadvantage here. And the consequences of these developments are quite diverse. In some cases, swimming pools have had to close due to cuts in public funding. In other cases, swimming pools have had to reduce their opening hours or their services in general. And in some cases, swimming pools have had to increase their prices to cover costs, and this can make swimming pools unaffordable for certain parts of the population. And the cuts in public funding can lead to a reduction in the quality of swimming pools, and this can affect the safety, hygiene, and equipment of the swimming pools. So conservative cultural policy has led to a number of changes in the British cultural landscape. And these changes also have an impact on public services, such as the example I picked for today, the swimming pools. And the consequence of these developments are not only noticeable for the swimming pools themselves and for museums, but also for the users of all these facilities. And if you want to know more about Brexit or UK politics, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.